A lot of people, I don't know why I get this impression that I know all about tax evasion. I'm struggling with tax avoidance, but tax evasion, everyone seems to think I know all about money laundering and how to do it. And I don't. But I know a little bit because I read. What's with money laundering, it's a funny thing because I've never quite got it. Now, I understand, like Ozark, that film about money laundering, that they've got this illegally gotten money, like drugs and extortion and crime and all that type of thing, and they want to spend it. The gangsters want to spend it. So they need to make that so they can spend it, and the only way they can spend it in any serious amounts is by having it kosher, putting it into a bank account and therefore paying on credit cards and paying by bank transfers, because it's not that easy to pay in cash, especially large amounts. I mean, you can barely go to McDonald's anymore and pay with cash. So how do you get rid of hundreds of thousands and even millions of pounds? Well, the usual method is that they do things like open a nightclub, and they increase the turnover levels. So you can say, I've taken £100,000 last year on the door, but you've not really taken anything. But you can put it in the bank and it's done. The thing with putting it in the bank and putting it through your books and doing stuff like that is that it then becomes taxable and maybe subject to VAT and. Now, if the money's gotten illegally through drugs and all that type of thing, they'll just put it in. They'll just include the cost of laundering as part of their cost of their whole organisation. So if you've gone and robbed a bank or done something, then you can put that money through your chain of off licenses. Then your cost of that is paying more tax, more VAT, and I sort of get that methodology. What I don't get is when people have been, they call them rich dentists, but when people have been siphoning off money not to pay tax, to avoid VAT, to avoid all that type of thing, then by laundering the money back through your newsagent or your restaurant or your nightclub, that's merely putting you back where you would have been in the first place had you not been trying to do this. So you'll be back paying the tax, back paying the VAT, back paying national insurance, back paying everything. So the whole endeavour seems nonsense. So the only thing I can think about money laundering is for gangsters. But what's got me talking about this is that Natwest was in the papers again. I mean, it's not my favourite bank. I have in all my business life for the past, gosh, it's 45 years, I've never had a good dealing or know anyone that's had a good dealing with NatWest. I'm not saying they're a bad bank. I'm just saying that that's my experience with them. And I had, they really let me down in my younger days and taught me a very big lesson, because I always used to think you could trust what your bank manager said, but he just lied to my face. So I'm not a fan of NatWest. But then again, it's a bank. They're not my friends. They're there to do a service. It took me a while to learn that, but it seems that they've just had a £350 million fine. And that fine is based on them allowing money to be basically banked without checking where it's come from. So if I went to the bank with £20,000 and banked it, my bank would want me to show them where I got that money from. But apparently a firm in Bradford, of all places, a jewellery firm, who's actually a bullion firm, has actually put through £350 million over just slightly less than 3 years. So that's well over like £100 million a year. And there's all sorts of things gone on in this. Like, why would they not check something like that? Are they idiots? Okay, they're idiots. They've been careless. But then I went and looked at the company, and it was a company called Fowler Oldfield, and I went to look at the accounts. Just and what I found is that there's at least half a dozen different companies with similar names and similar directors, all liquidated on the same date. And in the newspaper, I read that this particular firm has been going over 100 years, but the accounts say it was formed in 2008. Also, the nature of the business doesn't say bullion or jewellery or anything. It just says something completely different. And other business support services, and the level of stocks that they were holding was like £450,000. Now that might seem a lot of money, but when you're turning over what is effectively over £100 million a year, £450,000 doesn't make sense of any given time that they're turning over that sort of money. It just that they're turning over like £200,000 a week. It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. And then they had debtors, also £450,000. So they had people that owed them money to the same amount of stock they're holding, or roughly, and they've got creditors of around 850,000, which is 850 creditors, 450 in stock. It sort of doesn't make sense. So none of these figures, to me, I'm sure there's perfectly good explanations of them, and I'm sure if I printed them out and I had the full details, I'd find the common links. But there's other companies, so there's some. It's a bit odd what's gone on. That's all I'm saying. And then to top it all, who is the auditor? Do you remember last week when we were looking at Patisserie Valerie and the auditors were being fined again for bad auditing principles? Same company, Grant Thornton. So and you've got to question all these things. And a little firm in Bradford, or a little firm, it's I bet some Manchester city centre bullion dealers aren't taking this sort of money. So I just think that what you've got is a team, people here, accountants, banks, all circulating, all the big boys circulating money around, and I'm just jealous because I'm not included. I have to get all the little.
Are we fishing for bribes again? 2 weeks on the trot?
It's just, there seems to be so much money earned in the big boys doing this type of thing. Obviously I can't say that anything corrupt's going on because I might get into trouble, but I can think it. But the little companies. I mean, I've got a client he doesn't know what to do. He's got legitimate businesses. He's got sales that go through his books. Everything's as it should be, spot on, I know, because we do it. But he's in trouble because most of his sales come in cash. Now, this guy's turning over tens of thousands of pounds, not millions, not hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And the banks won't take the money off him. They won't take the cash off him because of money laundering and that, And yet he's been going for years, and all of a sudden he's struggling, and he can't even pay suppliers because suppliers won't take the cash. But Natwest took 350 million. I just don't think it's fair.
You kill one man, you're a murderer. You kill 1,000, you're a hero.
Yeah, I just think they should scrap all the anti-money laundering rules and just make the rules for the big people.
Here we go.
If your turnover is below a certain amount, you shouldn't be subject to the same rules that the big firms are subject to.
So we're getting rid of taxes for everyone then.
Yeah.
And making money laundering just fine.
No, I think taxes are good.
I think this has been a very productive show.
I think taxes are good, and we earn a lot of our money making sure people pay the right amount of taxes. I just think that the big firms and big organisations, there seems to be one rule for them. And I think if somebody goes out who's more authorised than me and looks at this tale and really analyse it, I think they'll see a lot more going on than just Natwest being a bit incompetent. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to carry on watching, we've got loads of videos all around us. But if you have more real-world issues and something you'd like to talk about, do feel free to contact me. Just go to my website, stephenenglander.co.uk, fill in the form, tell me what it is roughly you want to talk about, and I'll be in touch. Thank you.